Hello everyone, it is Briximus Prime, back for another Marvel Legends action figure video. Today we're going to be looking at my top 22 Marvel Legends figures of 2022. I'm probably just also letting you know, sometime in the future I might stop doing the whole 22 and just go right down to top 10 again, but whatever. Also, some of these Marvel Legends may not be ones that are brand new to this year, but they're just ones that I picked up. Starting with the honorable mentions, we've got the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness Wong. Now, I actually like this Wong. It's just the problem, because again, this is the first time we've gotten Wong in Marvel Legends, and he looks great. My only problem is he's very, very limited in the legs, and I really don't like that Hasbro keeps insisting on giving us that, like, kind of hard, kind of soft packaging, or not packaging, the plastic that goes around that always goes around like the skirts and dresses and robes and all that, and it gets really irritating because I want to be able to pose my figures and it's very limiting to that kind of stuff. And Wong definitely falls short just because there were other figures that were more posable and just as detailed that I liked throughout this year. And then moving on to Gamora. Gamora here is basically just the same thing. I like this figure. It's just, because she has the heels, she has a hard time standing up naturally in any kind of pose without a stand. And she's pretty detailed and she's like accurate to the movie. It's just I just liked other figures more than Gamora, and she just barely didn't make the list. Anyway, now moving on to 22 and 21, we have the gaming great or gamerverse Mr. Negative and his inner demon. Now, technically, I'm doing them as separate figures. The inner demon is the one that's in the 21 spot, and Mr. Negative is in the 20 spot. So, is in the 21 spot. And basically, I like both of these figures. It's just they're guys in suits, and I feel like some of their posability is a teeny bit limited, especially for Mr. Negative, especially when he's a sword wielder, and I feel like he should have some bits of posability that are necessary for guys with swords. But the inner demon I really do like, because I just like having generic bad guys for like Spider-Man and a bunch of other figures to just beat up. It's always nice to have army builder characters. Now, moving on to number 20, we have the Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy pack Drax. Now, this guy is from the same Disney store, Disneyland exclusive multi-pack of Guardians of the Galaxy that Gamora is from. And basically, I like the Drax. It's just because he's an older figure that's been reissued. He does have a couple of quirks here and there that I feel like could have been worked out easily with nowadays. And of course, it's understandable that for such a niche Disney Store exclusive, Hasbro would just reissue whatever it is they want, even if it's like a really old figure. And so it makes sense, but I still like the Drax. He's just not as high on this list as some other figures because a lot of the other ones on this list are newer figures. I still like him, and he's still nice enough that I wanted him on the list. Going on to number 19, we have the Fantastic Four Retro Waves Psycho Man. This might come as a bit of a surprise to some people, but I was really, really surprised to see how really good this Marvel Legends is. He's got the pinless joints, he's got double jointed elbows, he's even got the pinless knees and elbows, and I'm surprised how like posable he is, how detailed he is, and he's such a niche character, and yet Hasbro put in all this time and effort into making this guy like so posable and really, really good. I was surprised to see that I had literally zero issues with this guy, like for the figure itself. The only thing I do wish is maybe he came with some extra hands or some extra accessories, but the figure itself is really good. I am Groot. Need I say more? And moving on to number 17, we have the Marvel Legends Multiverse of Madness Doctor Strange Waves Despair. Now, Despair, again, just like the Psycho Man, I was surprised by how well this figure is put together and how cool he is because, again, this is a character that not a whole lot of people know about. I have read one comic that this guy's from, so I kind of know him a little bit, but again, not a lot of people know who Despair is compared to like Mordo and Dormammu. And I really like this guy. And again, because the figure is so good, it makes you want to learn about him. He does have a kind of a plain black body, but I feel like that just plays into the character. Though I would have liked maybe some extra bits of white here and there just to give him a little bit of extra, I guess, value because of paint apps. But overall, I really like how he came out, especially with his cape and head and the white hands. I really like him. And now moving on to number 16, we have the Marvel Legends uh, Punisher, the one that comes with the motorcycle. I did end up finding this older figure this year in an actual store, and I managed to get him on a deal too, but that's not why he's as high as he is on the list. I genuinely like this Punisher because, again, he's based on that one big bulky body type, like the Sandman and the Hydro Man and whatnot. Or I think it's the Luke Cage body mold, if I got that right. And he's a good figure. It's kind of like Punisher in his earlier days, and he's got the skull and the motorcycle, and I love how many accessories he comes with. I just thought that that one like Skyrim helmet was kind of a weird inclusion with this guy, but overall, really like the set. I like where he ended up on the list. And now moving on to number 15, we have the Marvel Legends Rocket Raccoon from the same Guardians wave that I mentioned about, that Guardians pack, and I was really surprised to see how much posability this guy has for being such a really teeny figure. Like, he has just as much articulation as a lot of all the bigger Marvel Legends, just, you know, all jam-packed and crammed into this tiny little guy. And overall, I think he's pretty good, and again, I'm really happy to have him because it's Rocket Raccoon and he's the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's just not going to end up too high on the list because he is technically a reissued figure. This same criteria applies to number 14. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy pack StarLord from that same Disney Plus wave, or Disney Plus multi-pack. And this is the StarLord that I really like. It's the StarLord based around Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's a pretty good figure. I like his gray shirt with the weird, like, alien, or is it, like, Japanese-looking writing. And overall, I like his helmet and everything. And the blasters are nice, and I like how he can holster the blasters on his hips. My only issue is I wish he came with maybe an alternate head that had, like, his headphones in and maybe had his Walkman you could hook on his hip. Or, like, I just wish there was some way that they made that kind of a head just to get a Star-Lord where he's, like, listening to music. Other than that, I would have liked maybe some alternate hands. And now moving on to number 13 and 12, we have the Marvel Legends Moon Knight and Mr. Knight from the Disney Plus show. And specifically, the one that's in the latter category, the 13, is Mr. Knight, and then Moon Knight is in the 12 mark. I like the Moon Knight more than Mr. Knight because I love all the brand new sculpting and like all the wraps and everything and the posability. My only issue is I wish he came with more hands. I wish he was slightly more posable because I feel like he's a little bit stiff in some areas where he seemed pretty flexible in the show. And again, I'm mad that he didn't come with the cape that it looks like the crescent moon, so I would have liked some better display options with that as well. But overall, I think he's fine. And for Mr. Knight, I think he's fine. It's just he's just a little bit more plain when compared to to Moon Knight, and also his ab crunch and his diaphragm articulation is limited very limited because of that new suit tux piece. And overall, I think he's just fine. And again, it's just reused parts, so he's just a teeny bit boring when compared to Moon Knight, who has all the brand new sculpted parts. But anyway, that's where they end up. Now moving on to number 11, we have the Marvel Legends Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Target exclusive SpiderMan Noir. I like the SpiderMan Noir, and I'm glad that I barely managed to find one, and I'm able to add him to my collection. And I did kind of steal it from my friend Red Warrior, sorry by the way. But overall, I really like the figure, and he's pretty posable. I just feel like he's a little bit limited in what poses he can do because of the way how his trench coat has been sculpted, where he's got like the swooping part on the back, because it feels like he constantly needs to be in an action pose or something, where if I want to have him in just a regular standing pose where he's like thinking about the crime he's investigating or whatever, but like it feels like he's constantly supposed to be in action when I want to be able to display him where he's just standing or he's like thinking or whatever, but like because of the way, and again, just like the Moon Knight, I wish there was like alternate like cape and like alternate like trench coat parts. And yeah, just because of that, he barely didn't make it into the top 10, which starting with number 10, we have the Marvel Legends Renew Your Vows 2-pack Spinnerette. I liked this figure a lot more than I thought I would, because at first glance, it looked like she was based on a body type of a body mold that wasn't all that great. And I do like Spinnerette. I wanted to like this figure, and I ended up liking her a lot more than I thought I would, because I do like Spinnerette's character. I was just worried that they were going to make the figure very subpar and not like up to the level that it should be, but thankfully they did. But the only issue that I have with this Renew Your Vows 2-pack is they didn't come with any kind of webs or like web slinging parts. Even if it was just those reissued ones from a bunch of other figures in the past, I would have still loved more web parts with Spinnerette and the Spider-Man. Now, moving on to number 9, we have the Marvel Legends Walgreens exclusive supervillains Baron Zemo. Now, I need to give a shout out to Master Chef Photography. It looks like Master Chief, but he spells it as Master Chef Photography. He had a giveaway on Instagram where he was giving away this Baron Zemo, and I happened to win one from him. So this is where I got my Baron Zemo, so shout out to him. I'll leave a link down below for his stuff. But anyway, I like the Baron Zemo. He's a very nice figure. He's got the sword, and he's got all the detail. And again, I love these semi-realistic comic book looking designs for Marvel Legends. It's really like my bread and butter of Marvel Legends. But I feel that the reason why this figure didn't end up higher on the list as much as I like him, I feel like he should have had butterfly joints and maybe a couple extra bits here and there, because he's a sword fighter. Again, very similar to Gamora. It feels like they're missing necessary parts because they're sword fighters, and yet there's some poses they just can't do because there's some cool sword poses they just can't do because Hasbro didn't give it to him. Now, moving on to number 8, we have the Walmart exclusive comic book design Doctor Strange. I like the way how this guy turned out. Again, I like that semi-realistic comic book look, and I also like how this guy came with a bunch of accessories, which really justified his bulkier price tag. And the only thing I wish he had is maybe some extra paint on the legs. And as much as I complained again before about the whole hard cape and everything, it actually doesn't bother me here because I'm still able to get some really nice posability on this guy. I also wanted to give a shout out to his yellow gloves. I love that like black, like spotty design they did on his gloves, and I love the little I love his yellow band and the cloak of levitation, and just overall I just love everything that he included, especially with all of like the ancient relics and the axe and all the alternate hands, and like I love how he came with like the astral form head, as much as it looked kind of weird, but like I like just how much variety there is with this figure. And again, it's Doctor Strange. You can't go wrong with Strange. And now moving on to number 7, we have the Marvel Legends Infinity Saga Deluxe Giant Iron Monger. I liked the Iron Monger. Very, very nice figure. He's nice, he's big, he's weighty, and again, I did get him on a discounted price, so that also makes me feel better about actually having him, because I only paid like $30 to get him in Obadiah, which, by the way, Obadiah barely didn't make it into the honorable mentions. But overall, the Iron Monger, I like his detail, I love the articulation. I've always been a big fan of the Iron Man Mach 1 armor since I was younger, and so this is like that but like bigger, bulkier, and like more upgraded, so of course I was gonna like this guy. The only reason why he's a little bit lower in the top 10 is because when I first got him, a couple parts came warped out of the box, specifically his ankle. And if you go into the review, I do show it off in more detail. Oh yeah, and also I like how posable he is for how bulky he is. Anyway, moving on to number 6, we have the Marvel Legends Spider-Man Retro Waves Symbiote Spider-Man. This guy would have ended up higher on the list if he was based on the Renew Your Vows figure with the, posable toes and all the fancy bells and whistles. But overall, I think this guy's just fine as he is, and obviously because he has the pinned joints, it actually doesn't bother me that much because it's just all in black. My only complaint is I feel like this guy, again, should have come with some web effects and maybe even an alternate head with like the Venom like goop stuff around it, or I don't know. I just feel like this guy's missing some necessary accessories, but overall this guy still carries himself pretty much to be carried all the way up here in the list. And now moving on to number 5, we have the Marvel Legends King in Black 2-pack Null. I really like the Null figure. I've read plenty of comics in the King in Black line that this guy comes from, and I really like how this figure turned out. And I love how big he is. He's a big figure. He's like when Marvel Legends have that average like 6-inch scale, he's like more like around like the 8 inches high, like 7.5. Like he's tall. And again, I love how big he is. I love the Necro Sword, his alternate heads and hands. But that's my only complaint with the figure, is he should have had a couple more alternate hands, and he should have also come with a couple more alternate heads, or maybe at least alternate hair pieces, because my problem is that his hair does get in the way of some posability, and that does bug me. And now moving on to number 4, we have the Marvel Legends Retro Waves Ghost Rider, and this figure probably would have easily ended up at number 1, but the problem is he doesn't come with a motorcycle. And it's just the one figure on his own. I'm really mad Hasbro thought it was a good idea to sell this guy without his motorcycle. So part of me is hoping that sometime later down the line they end up giving us a motorcycle separately, or maybe even a motorcycle included with another figure that has optional flame parts. I don't know, but I want to be able to have a motorcycle. I guess in the meantime I could have him borrow that Punisher one, but it's just not the same. And now moving on to number 3, we have the Marvel Legends Deluxe Cosmic Ghost Rider. I really like this set, and again, the only reason this guy is above the other Ghost Rider is because this guy actually came with his motorcycle, and it's a big motorcycle. It's a big thing, and I really love just how much like impact it really makes on the shelf, and like it looks awesome. It's bright, vibrant, colorful. I love all the flame bits and everything. And this guy comes with like a bunch of accessories, blast effects. He comes with blasters. Like there's not a single accessory out of place that I wish he came with. And like I overall have like barely any problems with him. He's super posable. He's really ultra detailed. I guess if I'm really reaching, his hips do look a little too wide. Like, they look too obvious that Hasbro borrowed them from somewhere. But other than that, perfectly fine. Now moving on to number 2. This one should come as a no surprise to some people, but this is the King in Black Winged Venom. I'm a huge Venom fan. I love Venom. I think he's one of the coolest Marvel Legends character, or one of the cool Marvel characters in general, and he always has great Marvel Legends figures. There's not been a single Venom figure that I've handled or I've seen online, or even ones that I own, that I've ever been disappointed with. I'm sure there might be some here and there that are a little bit bad, but overall, I've never been upset with Venom figures, and this guy is definitely one of the best ones. And again, I love how he has the option to remove the wings, and you can just have regular comic Venom in that movie Venom body. My only real issue, which again, this is more for Null, I wish these wings were able to attach onto Null. And finally, at number 1, again, this should come as no surprise to some people, and some people might criticize me for it, but this is the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man. Now, it's pretty simple why this guy ended up at number 1. I mean, it's Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, and this guy is a perfect, well, not 100% perfect, but a somewhat perfect comic book representation of the character. And I know some people are like, oh, if you really wanted one, just get the Mafex, or just get whatever else, these high-end figures. Well, guess what? Those things have big price tags on them, and this figure was definitely more accessible and more affordable. And again, I was able to find him at Target, like where Mafex, like you could barely find those anywhere, and you can only like order them online. But like, I'll eventually get one of those. But like, this figure is still really good on his own, and I feel like some people keep overpraising this figure, and some people are not praising it enough. Because some people say this thing's not as posable as the Mafex one. Well, clearly you haven't been posing it right, because I've been able to get this guy in so many poses. But again, the only reason this guy falls short compared to like the Mafex and whatnot is he doesn't come with any web effects. And again, and maybe even like grabby hands, because again, that's some of the poses I want to get this guy in, but I just can't do it because he comes with no grabby hands or no web effects. But the figure himself is really good, even if like the spider logo's not right, or some of the like coloring is off, and thankfully mine didn't have any like quality control issues, no like web parts missing or any of that. And there is a teeny bit of paint missing on the inside of the butterfly joints if you bend them at a certain point, but again, I feel like that's a tiny nitpick compared to it, but still, overall I think it's fine. So yeah, that is basically it for this list. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to give me a like on the video. Comment down below what you guys think. Again, let me know what your top figures of the year are. And also be sure to let me know what you think of my list or my picks. Was I right? Was I wrong? Do you guys think I'm stupid? I'm going to unsubscribe? Whatever. But please don't unsubscribe. Please stay. But overall, Thank you all for watching. This has been Briximus Prime, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.